Hello everyone, my name is Devin and this is my channel where I talk about all things knitting and maybe sometimes a little bit of crochet. Today I have a few finished objects for you, one new work in progress, and a few acquisitions slash knitting plans. This morning, just as a side note, this morning I went and got a haircut because my hair had gotten very long and it's hot here and it was bothering the hell out of me. And I go to this random barber shop and they were playing some like early 2000s country, including some Keith Urban. So if you're wondering where my mental state is right now, you can just picture like old angsty Keith Urban music, and that's kind of where I am right now. One thing that I decided that I wanted to do is, because this is a newer knitting podcast, and there's a lot of projects that I have that I have not shown you, I figured I would start each episode with an older project. So not a brand new recent finished object, but something that I've had for a little while, just to showcase some of my favorite projects from, before I started this podcast. So with that, let's go ahead and jump right in. The project that I am going to highlight today is my book club cardigan. I am sure you are all familiar with this pattern. It is a pattern by Sari Norland and was incredibly popular. It came out last fall, and since then I'm sure you've seen it again and again. It is a drop shoulder worsted weight. You can either use a single strand of worsted weight yarn, or you can use, I think it's a sport weight and a mohair, and I decided to do worsted. I think I made the size 4. That's usually right around where I am. You start by casting on stitches here. You make the increases to make that trapezoid. Then you pick up stitches for the front, knit down, connect your fronts and back. And then after you've finished there, you do the sleeves, and then pick up stitches for this beautiful double knit button band. This was the first time I had ever done a double knit button band, and I think that it is just a beautiful way of finishing up this cardigan. Beautiful, beautiful detail. Like many people who knit this cardigan, I experienced buying what I thought would be just enough yarn and then having to go back to my local yarn shop again and again to pick up another skein of yarn. I think the pattern greatly underestimates the amount of yarn that you're going to need for this project. So if you plan to make this, just know that that is something that you should keep in mind. That is my only complaint about this. This was my first all over cabling garment, and it was a ton of fun, totally worthwhile. And this is going to be something that I wear forever and ever because it is just so beautiful, so polished, just amazing. One other change that I made, or the one change that I did make when I knit this, was I actually did half the decreases on the sleeve than what is called for in the pattern. So I skipped every other decrease row because the sleeves were just a little bit tight for me. I do kind of wish that I had even picked up more stitches than called for in the pattern. Not the end of the world and not like the worst fit ever. Just a little bit tighter than I would like. So that's another thing to maybe keep in mind if you find that you like your sleeves a little bit looser. Maybe pick up more stitches than she calls for in her pattern, and keep an eye on those decreases so that you don't make them too tight at the end. But yeah, wonderful garment that I love. So now for my finished objects from the past few weeks. The first finished object that I have, I actually finished this one last night. It is the Tolsta tank by Rebecca Clow, or the Crayabea on Instagram. I did the DK weight version of this. This is another very popular pattern. So if you're not familiar with it, she has two different weight options. You can either do a DK version and a fingering version. I ended up doing the DK version just because I had some cotton yarn left over from another project that I completed a while back. And I realized I had just enough for this. So I was like, all right, let's go ahead and do this. This is, I think it's a cotton bamboo blend yarn. It's the, and I realized I forgot to mention the yarn from my last project. I used Barocco Superwash, Barocco Wool Superwash. Anyways, back to this one. This is the Lion Brand Kaboo yarn, which it's very nice and drapey. The one thing that I will say about it is that it does split a lot, and when you're knitting, that is fine. So I didn't have like a huge issue with knitting this project, but the project that I made with the yarn originally was a crochet like swimsuit cover-up shirt thing, and that was really annoying. Got through it just fine. Love the finished object, but the yarn is splitty. This is, you cast on at the bottom and then knit upwards, and Rebecca also gives you a handful of options for the top part. So once you go to split for the front and the back, you can decide which of the versions that you would like to make. She's got a camisole, she's got this, which is the vest, the tank top, and then there's also a V-neck, I believe. So I went for the regular tank top. And then once you join up here, you then pick up stitches for the armholes and the neck, and it's only like a ½ inch of ribbing, which takes like no time at all. This was overall a pretty quick project. This ended up being, I mostly worked on this while traveling, so on the airplane. And I really enjoyed it. This is a 4-row stripe that I managed to keep throughout. And yeah, I think this is gonna be a nice little summer top. The one thing that I realized about knitting on airplanes, because I haven't always done it, and last week I flew to San Francisco and back for work, and I realized that even if you are wearing over-ear headphones, that is not enough of a deterrent. When you are knitting, people want to talk to you about it. I don't mind that. I will happily talk about my knitting with you, but on my one flight, the woman next to me talked to me the entire time, and she started talking to me when the flight attendants, came around and asked for drinks, and I had like pushed my headphone back, and she slipped right in, and we spoke the entire time. I admit I probably encouraged it a little bit, but I didn't love that. So I will have to maybe come up with tactics moving forward to prevent that from happening, because I just wanted to listen to my podcast and knit. It had been a long week, and flying back and forth to the West Coast from the East Coast is a long trip. So got to keep that in mind for the next time I bring airplane knitting, which I know that I will. My next finished object was a test knit, and that is the Fidalgo cardigan by Michelle Frazetta, or Michi Fraz on Instagram. This is another worsted weight cardigan, another drop shoulder where you cast on at the back and then pick up stitches for the fronts. This one is special because you actually cast on the neckband at the same time, And then as you are knitting the fronts, you do the button band and neckband at the same time. So there's no going back at the very end to pick up all of those stitches to do the button band, which it speeds up the process a ton. The other thing that I loved about this was the stitch pattern. It is a 3x1 broken rib, which was like a ton of fun to knit, and Michelle had designed it so that on the right side rows you are knitting the whole time, and then on the purl side rows it is a purl 3 knit 1, which just I love the patterns where you do have that row of just straight knitting, and then on the wrong side rows it like mixes it up a little bit, because it does make it a little bit more interesting while at the same time making it just so easy to fly through it, especially at this 19.5 stitch gauge. It's a nice chunky gauge, not too chunky, but you know, it makes it fly. I used Knit Picks Wool of the Andes in the sweet lavender color. This was the first time I had ever used Knit Picks Wool of the Andes, and I will say it's maybe a little bit itchier than my other like go-to worsted yarn is Cascade 220. I think this one is maybe a little bit more, you can feel it, the wool a little bit more, but I love the way that it looks and I love the way that it blocked out. So it will probably be a yarn that I go back to. This pattern is coming out just in time for Flock Fiber Festival. So like beginning of August. I live in Virginia on the East Coast, so I will not be going to Flock, unfortunately. I would love to if I could. But yes, this one will be coming out in time for Flock. Michelle paired up with a ceramics artist and a yarn dyer, and there will be yarn and buttons available at Flock for this. You can see, we'll see if I can get it to zoom in on this. These cute little ceramic buttons are from Very Warm Stripes on Instagram and Warm Stripes on Etsy. She does their ceramic, I think they're porcelain buttons, and I think that they are just so cute. So she will have some of those at Flock along with some yarn. I can't remember the name of the yarn dyer, but they will be there together showcasing options for this. So very, very exciting. This was a great knit. I just wanted to take a moment to show this awesome shoulder detail that I think just looks so clean and nice. Yeah, highly recommend this. Super quick neat, super quick make, very fun, and I think it looks so polished. My final finished object that I have to share with you today is actually a shawl. This is the, hold on, figure out the best way to hold this. This is the Emiliana shawl by, I think, Jamie Hans on Ravelry. I will obviously link my project in the description, so if I got that wrong, you can find it there. This is a shawl designed to use 2 skeins of fingering weight yarn, and this yarn I actually found at my local scrap craft store. So someone had donated some yarn and I picked it up. This yarn is, let me see if I can remember. It's the brand Lattes and Llamas, and this is their interlude yarn, which is blue-faced Leicester and alpaca and silk blend. So like really soft and nice. And this center part here is a slip stitch pattern. So pretty easy, looks really neat. The construction, you cast on a few stitches here, and then through a series of increases and decreases, you get this sort of crescent shape and then you continue on and do the mosaic pattern, and then finish with the solid color at the end, and then just cast off that like final row of stitches here. Yeah, this was my first shawl, and I decided to finally make it because I had those 2 skeins of yarn that I really wanted to showcase in something like this, and I did a lot of summer travel, so I really wanted something that was a little bit more portable than, you know, a full sweater. And this ended up being great. I actually knit the majority of it while I was at the beach, not on the beach. I have yet to figure out what the best method is for knitting on the beach because I don't want sand all up in my shit. So if anyone has any tips for beach knitting, that would be great. But this was knit in the condo and not on the beach. But yeah, super fun, kind of relaxing project that ended up being great. And I can't wait to figure out how to wear it once it starts to cool down here. So that is all for my finished objects. Now I can talk a little bit about, I have one work in progress for you today, and let me grab that. So this work in progress is a pair of vanilla socks. You can actually see I have finished one sock here, and I am on the leg of the other. This yarn is very special. This is a hand-dyed sock set by Mezzo Makes, and it is her 90s taco throwback yarn. So the teal, the bright aqua color is supposed to be the Baja Blast color from Taco Bell, and then the main color is like the 90s Taco Bell interior color. And as an avid Taco Bell enjoyer, I absolutely had to pick up a sock set of this. I know Mezzo Makes had a little bit of some life issues, and so I pre-ordered this yarn, and then it took long enough that I kind of honestly forgot about it. This was something that I like kind of spur of the moment was like, I have to get some of this, pre-ordered it, and then kind of forgot about it. So by the time that it came, I had almost like forgotten about the fact that I pre-ordered this. So it was a really fun treat to unwrap this yarn, and I think that it is just the cutest thing ever. I love, love, love the combination here. And that teal on the heels and toe and cuff, just so cute. I am using the Crazy Sock Ladies vanilla sock pattern, which is pretty simple. I'm also using a set of 9-inch circulars, so I am following her tutorial for that. Jury is out on whether I like enjoy knitting with the 9-inch circulars more than DPNs. I actually learned to knit socks on DPNs, so that was kind of the like way that that was my go-to way. This goes a lot quicker. It's just a little bit harder on your hands because these are so short. But I've enjoyed it so far, so I think I'll probably stick to this and just get used to holding these needles. These are the Chiagu 9-inch circulars. I've heard that Addie has a pair of like specifically sock knitting needles that the right side is longer and the left side shorter to help you hold on to the needles. So that might be worth trying out. If any of you have experience with these versus the Addie knit rockets, please let me know. I would love to hear if anyone has a preference for either or. So yeah, these are my having a blast socks that I am just so happy about. That was my singular work in progress. I have a few others that have been hibernating. So hopefully the next time I make a podcast, I'll have some progress slash maybe have finished some of those so I can showcase them. But for now, just the one work in progress. I do have some yarn acquisitions that I would like to talk about today. The first one is this fun Diablo mohair in this dark purple color from Hobie. They were having a sale on this yarn. I think I got enough for a like kind of oversized sweater for like less than 20 bucks. This yarn is a combination, let's see. It is 40% acrylic, 30% mohair, and 30% polyamide. So it's a little bit more on the acrylic side. I was concerned about the itchiness of mohair, so I decided I'd try this to see if this feels better. So that will be a fun experiment. I got it to pair with this dark brown wool. This is a wool acrylic blend that I bought at a like really steep discount from maybe Premier Yarns. Can't quite remember. I've had this sitting in my stash for a while, and I've known that I've wanted to knit the Paul cardigan by paisleyknits. And I have been struggling to find a mohair to match. I bought some mohair at a yard sale, a yarn yard sale at my local yarn shop. And it was a little bit too beige, so it, you know, that like lighter color just didn't work. This is obviously not the same color, but I think that this purple is like of the correct saturation and darkness to this brown to make it work. I swatched with it and I thought it was like pretty cute that it's like a dark brown with a purple haze to it. So I think that this is going to be a good blend. So we'll see how that goes. And we will see how knitting with this Diablo mohair ends up going. It's hot here, so this will probably be, I don't really want to like necessarily knit with a fuzzy yarn like this. So this will probably be a project that I get into once it starts to cool off here, which is probably October. But I am looking forward to it. I think the Paul cardigan is really pretty, and I have been meaning to try knitting a saddle shoulder. That's the construction of the Paul cardigan. I've done drop shoulder, I've done raglan, I've done circular yokes on sweaters. Saddle shoulders are the one thing that I haven't tried yet, so I definitely want to see how that fits and how it looks. And I actually do not have a ton of experience knitting with holding two yarns double like this, so we'll see how that goes. Neither of these are expensive yarns, so it could be that this is just like an unfair first or second example of it because this is a lot of acrylic, but we'll see. It's a cardigan, so it's not necessarily going to be on my skin, and I think it'll be a fun experiment. The next yarn that I have that I acquired is actually a big old bag of yarn, quite a bit. I got this yarn from a summer sale that Knit Picks was having, where their yarns were either $2, $4, or $6 a skein. And this I think was $4 a skein. This is their Altiplano. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's a worsted weight. I think it is a wool alpaca blend. Let me make sure. Yes, 65% wool, 35% alpaca. This is the undyed version, which is what was on such steep sale. But I think I got, this is like 7 skeins, and I got it for 25 bucks. And it is wool and alpaca, so like killer deal that I could not pass up. And I really have wanted to either make the Moby sweater or the Storm sweater by Petite Knit. And I think that this undyed color is going to be perfect for either one of those. I think I'm leaning towards the storm sweater, but we'll see if that changes by the time I cast on. I have actually never knit a petite knit pattern, which if you are on any other person's like knitting Instagram or you watch any other person's like podcast, it is petite knit again and again and again. And somehow I just managed to avoid, like I didn't really discover her until I was already knitting for a while. And also when I started knitting, I was drawn a lot more to the, how do I say this? I was drawn to the more unique knitting patterns. I definitely like fell into doing color work a lot quicker than a lot of people do, just because I think that that is, you can't buy that as much as you can make it, you know? So a little bit more funky knitting patterns were my style when I started. And petite knit is known for her wardrobe staples. And that just wasn't, like, that didn't interest me in the beginning. Now that I've been knitting for a little bit longer and have made some of those more like unique pieces, now I definitely have a hankering for more of those wardrobe staples. So now I'm kind of like circling back to her patterns. I definitely want to try them. Like, obviously she's popular for a reason. So I think that this will be a good way to take a stab at her knitting patterns. And I'm like so excited about this yarn and excited about the really classic look of the storm sweater. I love a textured knit, so I think that'll be a lot of fun. So yeah, that is my acquisition and new knitting plan. That is all I have to talk about today. I am really excited to clear off some of the works in progress that I have so that I can continue casting things on. I'm at a point where I would like to go back to some of the things that I've left lingering and pick those back up so I can get them off my needles so that I feel a little bit better about casting on new projects. I am greatly looking forward to the decrease in temperature. It has been in the 80s and humid here for months now at this point. I know I'm probably exaggerating, but by late May, it has been this hot. I took a trip to San Francisco, like I said last week, and the weather was so beautiful, it almost made me sad. And then I came back here, stepped out of the airport, and my glasses immediately completely fogged over because that is how humid it is here right now. I will stop complaining, but you know, as a knitter, I am looking forward to the cooler weather so I could finally wear my cold weather knits. Yeah, so that is all I have for you today. Let me know what you're working on. If you have knit any of the things that I have knit this time and how you're doing. Yeah, so thank you, and I will see you guys next time.